The moment I realized my family had chosen money over me, it did not feel loud. There was no dramatic argument, no door slammed, no clear line where everything broke at once. It was quieter than that. A decision made in a room I was part of, but no longer included in. A look between people who had already agreed on something before I understood what was happening. A sentence that sounded reasonable on the surface, but carried a weight that made everything else suddenly clear. That was when I knew I was no longer part of the equation. And once that realization settles in, everything you thought you understood about loyalty starts to rearrange itself. Stories like this are why people watch exposed stories media. Not because family conflict is rare. Because the moment a family chooses profit over a person, it reveals something deeper than disagreement. It shows what they value when they believe they have to choose. My family had always been close. Not perfect. Not overly emotional, but stable in the way that gives you a sense of safety without needing constant reassurance. My father owned a small distribution business. Nothing flashy, but consistent. He built it over years of careful relationships, steady contracts, and a reputation for reliability that mattered more than marketing. My mother handled the financial side. Quietly, precisely. Together, they created something that supported all of us. My older brother, Daniel, joined the business first. He had the personality for it. Confident, decisive, willing to take risks in a way my father respected, even when he did not fully agree with them. I came in later, not because I had nowhere else to go, because I wanted to improve what already existed. I had studied operations and systems. I understood inefficiencies. I saw how small structural changes could produce long-term stability. At first, my role was supportive. Process improvements, cost tracking, logistics optimization. Nothing dramatic, but over time, the results became visible. Reduced waste, more predictable delivery cycles, better margins without increasing pressure on existing clients. My father noticed. He did not say much, but he trusted results. That mattered. Daniel noticed too, but not in the same way. To him, improvement meant opportunity, expansion, scaling, leverage. Words that sound powerful, especially when things are already working. That is where the difference between us started to matter. I focused on stability. He focused on growth. At first, those goals aligned. Then they started to compete. The first real shift came when Daniel proposed a major expansion. New markets, larger contracts, faster growth. On paper, it looked impressive. The projections were strong. The potential was real, but the structure underneath was not ready. I saw that immediately. Not because I was cautious. Because I understood how systems break when they are pushed beyond what they can support. I raised concerns. Not aggressively, just clearly. I explained where the risks were. Cash flow strain, operational overload, client dependency. My father listened. Carefully. My mother asked questions. Precise ones. Daniel dismissed most of it. Not openly. Not disrespectfully, just confidently. He said we could adjust as we grew. He said waiting would cost us opportunity. He said playing it safe was the same as falling behind. Those arguments sound convincing, especially to people who built something slowly and are now being told they could have more. That is how the decision was made. Not in one moment, but over a series of conversations where confidence slowly replaced caution. Eventually, my father said yes. That was the turning point. Not because expansion is always wrong, because the decision was made without fully understanding what it would cost to maintain control. At first, everything looked successful. New clients came in, revenue increased. The business grew faster than it ever had before. Daniel looked right, and when someone looks right early, people stop questioning them. That is how risk hides. But growth built on pressure does not stay stable. It stretches. And when it stretches, something always starts to give. I started seeing the signs before anyone else did. Small delays, inconsistent reporting, rising costs that did not match the narrative being presented. Nothing dramatic, yet, but patterns matter more than isolated problems. And the pattern was clear. We were moving faster than the system could support. I brought it up again, more directly this time. Daniel pushed back harder. He said I was overthinking. He said I did not understand scale. He said problems like this were normal during expansion. My father hesitated. That was new, because hesitation means doubt, and doubt disrupts momentum. That is when the conversations started happening without me. Meetings scheduled at times I was not included. Decisions made before I saw the numbers. Information shared selectively. At first, I told myself it was temporary, that once things stabilized, everything would return to normal. But deep down, I knew something had changed. Because exclusion is not accidental. It is intentional. And when it happens repeatedly, it means you are no longer part of the decision-making process. You are part of something else. That understanding came fully one evening. We were sitting at the dining table. The three of them, and me. Daniel was explaining a new financing structure. More leverage, more risk, more potential upside. I interrupted. I asked how we would cover short-term gaps if projections did not hold. There was a pause. Then my father said something I will never forget. He said, "We trust Daniel on this. Not we need to review it. Not let's go through the numbers. We trust Daniel." That sentence ended my role. Not officially, but completely. Because from that moment on, I was no longer the person helping guide decisions. I was the person questioning them. And in a room focused on growth, the person who questions becomes the problem. That is when I understood the truth. They were choosing the possibility of more money over the certainty of keeping things stable. And in that choice, they were choosing Daniel's vision over my reality. That was the moment my family chose money over me. They just did not realize it yet. Once I was no longer part of the decision-making process, everything became easier to see. Not because I knew more, because I was no longer responsible for protecting the outcome. That distance changes how you understand a situation. I started reviewing what I could access. Not out of control, out of clarity, and what I found confirmed everything I had been warning about. Cash flow was tightening, not visibly, but structurally. Incoming revenue was increasing, but so were obligations. Faster. That imbalance does not appear immediately. It builds, quietly, then it accelerates. I tried one more time, not in a group setting, just with my father. I showed him the numbers. I explained the risk in simple terms, not theory, reality. He listened, more carefully than before. But this time, something was different. He did not ask what we should do. He asked whether it was already too late to change direction. That question mattered, because it meant he was no longer deciding. He was reacting. And once a business becomes reactive, control starts slipping. Daniel found out about the conversation. That did not go well. He confronted me directly. Not angry, focused. He said I was undermining confidence. He said doubt spreads faster than problems. He said if I kept questioning things, I would become the reason the expansion failed. That argument is powerful, because it shifts responsibility from the decision itself to the person pointing out its flaws. I told him I was not trying to stop growth. I was trying to prevent collapse. He said something that ended the discussion. He said, "Then step back. Not temporarily, not for perspective. Just step back." That was not a suggestion. It was a decision, and my parents did not stop it. That was the second moment, the one that confirmed the first. They did not just choose money. They chose the version of the business that did not include me. I left. Not dramatically, not publicly, just quietly, because staying would have meant accepting a role I did not agree with, and leaving meant something else. It meant letting them see what happened without me holding things together behind the scenes. The first few weeks looked fine, better than fine. Growth continued. New contracts came in. Daniel's confidence increased. That is the dangerous phase, because early success reinforces bad decisions. It delays consequences, but it does not remove them. Then the first problem appeared. A client delayed payment. Not unusual, but the timing mattered. Because obligations were already tight, that created pressure. Then another delay. Different client. Same effect. Then a cost overrun. Small, but unexpected. That is how instability begins. Not with one large failure, with several smaller ones that start interacting with each other. Cash flow tightened further. Decisions became more urgent, less calculated, more reactive. That is when mistakes multiply, because pressure reduces clarity. I heard about it indirectly, through conversations, through changes in tone, through the way my mother stopped asking how things were going and started saying everything would be fine. That phrase always appears before things are not fine. Then came the turning point. A major contract, the one Daniel had used to justify most of the expansion, collapsed. Not completely, but enough. Enough to remove the margin that had been covering everything else. That is when the structure broke, because everything depended on that margin. And once it disappeared, nothing else could compensate fast enough. The collapse did not feel sudden to me. It felt inevitable. But to them, it came all at once, because they had been focused on growth, not on the conditions that made that growth sustainable. The business did not disappear overnight. It unraveled. Payments became difficult, then delayed, then negotiated, then defaulted. That progression is predictable. Once it starts, it rarely reverses quickly. My father called me, not as a leader, as someone who needed help. That was the hardest part, because I had warned him, not once, multiple times. But warning someone does not protect you from the moment they finally understand. He asked if there was a way to fix it. I told him the truth, not because I wanted to be right, because by then accuracy mattered more than comfort. I told him the structure was too strained, the obligations too high, the flexibility too low, and the time to correct course had passed. There was silence. Then he said something quietly. He said, "You tried to tell us." That acknowledgement came late, but it mattered. Daniel did not call, not at first. He stayed inside the situation, trying to fix it, trying to hold it together, trying to reverse something that had already passed the point of reversal. That is what people do. They believe effort can compensate for structure. It cannot. Eventually, he called. Not confident, not dismissive, different. He asked if I would come back, help stabilize things, fix what could be fixed. I said no, not out of anger, out of clarity, because the problem was not operational anymore. It was structural. And more importantly, it was a result of choices they had made together. Without me, coming back would not change that. The business shrank, then fractured, then partially disappeared. Not completely, but enough that everything they had built before the expansion was gone. That is the part people misunderstand. They think failure erases everything. It does not. It leaves enough behind to remind you what used to exist. That is often worse. My family changed after that. less confident, less certain, more aware of what decisions actually cost. My relationship with them changed too. Not broken, but different. Because once you see clearly how someone chooses when things matter, you cannot unsee it. They did not stop caring about me. That is important. But they chose something else over me when it mattered most. And that changes how you understand every other interaction. Stories like this are why exposed stories media exists. Because behind every collapse, there is always a moment where things could have gone differently. A moment where someone spoke up. A moment where someone chose to ignore it. And once that choice is made, everything after becomes consequence. If there is one lesson in this story, it is this. Pay attention to what people choose when they believe they are choosing opportunity. Because sometimes, what they are really choosing is risk they do not understand. And sometimes, in that choice, they lose more than money. My family chose money over me, and in the end, they lost both. Not because anyone punished them, because that is where their choices led. And once you understand that, you understand everything.